Hey there guys, what is going on? Slappy here, back for another Free-to-Play Friday video. If you're new to this series, every Friday we check out a random free-to-play game and just sort of talk about the pros, the cons, how it played. I usually play a few hours of it and then give my thoughts over some of the gameplay. This week I checked out Fistful of Frags, which I was intrigued by the name alone, but the pictures are what did it. It's a Western style FPS. And my first impressions, it's a Half-Life 2 mod. It has a lot of familiar assets. I'm sure even just looking at, the intro screens, you're probably seeing a lot of stuff you recognize. And so I sort of had an expectation for how it would play. And my first impressions were just, it had a very fun gunplay, and it looked very familiar. But anyway, let's jump into the pros and cons, as we usually do. So the pros, I guess let's start with the gunplay. The gunplay felt very old-fashioned, it felt very different, it felt very cool. So in this Western style, they definitely stuck with the Western theme for all the guns. It's all these old-school pistols and shotguns and rifles. And if you're not familiar with old-school, that era, pistols and whatnot, they had a huge recoil, they took forever to reload, and they weren't really reliable. And this game nails that. It was really cool. If you're moving at all, your accuracy dips to basically nothing. And, if you run out of bullets in the middle of a fight, you're basically dead because it takes forever to reload these guns. Which made the game really kind of interesting. Even if you had to drop on someone, if you missed a bullet and had to reload, it adds definitely an element of skill. There's quite a decent skill cap in this game. But the gunplay just felt really different, really kind of interesting. The guns feel really weighted, really heavy, high recoil. And kind of exactly how I imagined these old school pistols and whatnot would play like. So that was kind of cool. The Western setting in general was kind of just really refreshing. It felt really, different. It felt really good. And I really enjoyed playing in sort of just something that wasn't modern or World War II. So that was really cool. The Western setting I thought was just kind of different and fun, and I enjoyed playing in that. The maps are really cool looking, they're really well made. I think, like a lot of the Half-Life 2 mods, what may have happened was that they just kept making maps and had hundreds of maps, and then they got whittled down. The community sort of chose their favorite 10 or 20 to play. So by the time I got in this game, because it's been out a while, all the maps I played on were really well made. They were really good looking, well, good looking in terms of the aesthetic of them. And they played very well. I thought it was kind of interesting because, the Western setting could get pretty boring pretty quick. A lot of the buildings are very similar. It's a desert. But I thought all the maps I played were a little bit different, and they each had sort of interesting things that made them a little different. There was one that I played that was like a steamboat, which I thought was really cool. Sort of a casino riverboat type thing. There was one that had a river running through the town with water mills. There was one that had a mine in the middle of the city. There was one that had, a train station type vibe. The maps were really interesting, when they could have been very boring given the Western theme. So the maps are kind of cool. The loadout system that they use in the game, I kind of like, kind of dislike. Basically, you have 11 skill points, and you have a primary, secondary, and sort of a tertiary thing. So you can choose where you want to put your skill points. You can have a really good primary weapon, and then sort of no secondary. You can have sort of a decent primary, decent secondary, etc., etc. And it's kind of fun because it allows you to sort of adjust how you want to play. There's people who go around with a hatchet and just try and knock off people's heads. One of the secondary weapons is brass knuckles, which disarms players if you can get close enough to punch them. So it allowed each game to be pretty different if you wanted to try out different weapons and whatnot. There's also weapons you can pick up for a single time use, single life use in the game. There's weapon boxes that you can find. And then you use whiskey to heal up. So I thought the loadout system was kind of cool because it allowed me to try out all the different guns. I didn't have to go unlock them and whatnot. And, it was cool. I could use a pistol with sort of 6 shots. There's a shotgun with 2 shots, which means if you miss one, you're pretty much dead. There was a lot of fun stuff, and I enjoyed sort of the loadout system. The game modes, well, there aren't many that are being played, felt pretty good. There's a team deathmatch with 2 teams or 4 teams. Those were pretty fun, pretty much your standard team deathmatch. I think the most common one was just the free-for-all game mode, which was just kind of go at it. And, yeah, the game modes weren't tremendously different from one another, but You know, that is what it is. I don't know why I put that in the pros. That's probably a con, but it is what it is. There's a pretty high skill cap if you really want to get invested into a game, or you're just really good at shooting with a mouse and keyboard. The skill cap's pretty high. There was players that dominated, and, you know, they were hitting headshots consistently. And it didn't feel like hacking. It felt like they just were better at the game. I do like, though, that the accuracy on any weapon is never 100%. So even if you're really good at the game, there always is an element of these guns suck, so you may, you know, miss a shot. So that was kind of cool. And a lot of the maps benefit from really close quarters gameplay, which I think takes the skill cap down a little bit. But it was a lot of fun. There's a skill cap that's definitely there, though. There's also single-player modes in this game, which I was definitely not expecting. I thought they were just tutorials, but there's actually single-player little missions. They have, like, little stories, and they're sort of, you know, do these things. And that was kind of cool. The single-player modes are not bad. I tried 2 or 3 of them. I tried 2 or 3 of the beginner sort of missions, and they're pretty fun. There's a little bit of a challenge in them, though, I gotta say. But they're pretty cool. The other thing about this game is there's lots of, like, random little things. You know, exploding barrels that you can kick at people, and all sorts of random little tidbits that just kind of are random in there. Let's talk about the cons, though, because there's a few cons. As I said before, there's not many game modes. You're basically playing team deathmatch or free-for-all. There wasn't really anyone playing anything else, so that's something. There wasn't a huge number of players online. I played in the morning, North American time, which was maybe not the best time to play, but there was about 500 or 600 players online. Luckily, they all played in the same game, so you could always find a full server of a game mode you wanted, which was nice. It made it feel like it didn't feel like there were 600 people online. You know, it's not like I was killing the same people and over or anything like that. I think the biggest game mode is 20 people, so I could always find a game. But that being said, maybe it was because of the time of day. There wasn't many North American servers. There was pretty much all European servers, so it was a lot of high ping, which in a game where you have to aim pretty well, high ping isn't the greatest thing in the world, but you know what it is, what it is. There wasn't a huge amount of North American servers. The game looks pretty dated. These are pretty old assets. Half-Life 2 was 10, 15 years ago, and it's using a lot of those assets. So the game looks pretty dated, but honestly, it doesn't look terrible, and I'm not a huge graphics person anyway. The game plays pretty smoothly, so I appreciate that more than higher graphics. I never had too many issues. There's a few bugs, more so probably to do with high ping and where the servers are located than anything else. The last con that I thought of, well, that I experienced, was there was a little bit of an imbalance. I started to notice a lot of the high-level players, not even high-level, just the better players in the game that are using, they were using pretty similar weapons to each other, so I think there is sort of weapons that benefit people more, which I think any game has, but there was a bit of an imbalance. You know, the top people in the game were doing crazy well, the bottom people were not doing very well at all. I sort of sat in the middle, I think, most games, but there did feel to be a little bit of an imbalance, which in a game with a skill cap, you know, relatively high skill cap, I think happens anyway. But it still kind of sucks when you have one guy who, you know, goes 50-2, and it's just like, well, okay. Anyway, that was my last con. So my final review of the game, it's a fun shoot stuff game. There's a decent skill cap. If you are good at the game, you'll probably be, you know, more fun. It's really fast-paced. You know, you die, you're back into it. At the end of a map, it's very quickly into the next map. And there's no real penalty for leaving or anything. So for me, this is one of those games that if you just want to get in, shoot some stuff, and, you know, if you only want to play 10 minutes, that's completely fine. It's sort of this fun for quick shoot stuff games. It loads fast. The maps are fine. It almost reminds me of how I used to play Team Fortress 2. You know, I would never play super long. I'd get in, I'd play 3 or 4 games and be like, all right, I had my shoot stuff. I got to shoot stuff out of my system, and I just want to go do other stuff now. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fun game. It's, you know, it runs really smoothly. I imagine it runs great on sort of lower end PCs because it's a bit older graphics and whatnot. So it's a cool free-to-play game if you're into shooting stuff. The Western setting is kind of different. It's kind of interesting. The gunplay feels really good. The only things that really hold it back are, for me, the lack of North American servers and I guess just the overall graphical, you know, there's better looking shooting games. Either way, this was Free-to-Play Friday, Fistful of Frags. Let me know in the comments if you guys play this game, what you think of it, if you're just done with Half-Life 2 mods, or if this one intrigues you a little bit. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video or the series, and subscribe for more. Also, if you have any other games I should check out, let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, a ciao.